last week an idea came through my mind, and which was to create like a form for users, where users can fill the form and you can request videos which you want me to do, and maybe I can take a look at it, and I'll get an idea of what my next video is going to be. And I thought of building that application, and I also thought that why not build it real time and make it as a video, and also make this open source so that people would be helpful, and you might learn as well. Here I'm trying to I'll be trying to build an application as I said. So the stack which I'm going to use is going to be, as you can see on the screen, it's going to be Node.js and Express for the backend, and MySQL for database. And for frontend, we'll be just using a basic EJS template and CSS, of course. And we'll be also deploying this to DigitalOcean, and we'll be hosting it real time. I'll also be showing you how to host this application. I'll also be connecting my subdomain to this server so that whenever you hit that domain, this application will be showing up. So yeah, I think that's it for the explanation. I think let's get started. So let me also explain what this application will exactly do. So I want an input box where you will enter your idea of the video, and you'll have a submit button where you will click the submit button and your idea gets submitted, and below the form there would be a list of all videos or all requests from different people. And that's all. That's the application I want to be building. It's just an write and read application. So I think MySQL is a relational database, so I think it might be helpful as well. So yeah, let's get started. First, let me create a new file, and let me name that video request and cd into video request. So this is a new folder and there's nothing in it. So let me do npm init and -y to generate a default package.json. And now I want to install Express first of all, and also I want to install MySQL as a database, as you said, and also I want to install EJS and body parser as well. I also want to install nodemon for restarting the server whenever I make some changes. So the packages are installed now, and let me see what are there. And I want to create a file called index.js, and this is some basic boilerplate stuff where I'll be creating basic Express.js boilerplate. So let me go into index.js and fill up this with Express boilerplate. So I'll require Express, and I'll create an instance of Express, and I want the port to be process.env.port, or I want to run this at 5000, and I want the app to listen at this port, and on successful connect I want to console.log and say server at the port. Save that. And let me also create a basic let me set up this using, first thing I want to do is I want to set my view engine as EJS, because we'll be using EJS. So I want to do that. We want to set this to EJS, and I want to use body parser, so I have to require that. So let's say body parser, require body parser, and I want to use this body parser. And also I want to let me import MySQL here, and I have to connect to this. So let's see MySQL documentation. Let me open up Chrome here. Template to create a connection and to connect to this database. So let me copy this and come here and paste this. And now I want the user to be root, and let's say password is going to be password. Database is going to be, let's say, video request. We haven't created the database yet, but we'll do that. Let me quit this, and I want to go into MySQL you can open the CLI by saying this command -u root -p. -p stands for it asks the password, and -u stands for login as user. So it will be asking for a password, and you have to type your password which you have set when you initialized MySQL. So I want to create a database which we actually named video request. So I want to create that. That's it. Not anything more for now. I want to exit this, and also let me open Tmux because I want multiple windows. So yeah, I have index.js here, and let me create a basic /root to see if things are working or not. Let me return hello. Let me open another tab and say nodemon to run this. Okay, I think we have redeclared this thing, MySQL. So let's delete that, and I think there's some way to connect this, right? Yeah, we have to connect this as well. So let's paste that here, and again clear the screen and start the server. Okay, I think it's connecting. So because the server is at 5,000 and there are no errors thrown, I think it's working. So let's continue with this, and let's go to localhost 5,000 and see if, and yes, we are getting the response as hello, as you can see. So now I want to set up a structure of this directory. What I want is I want to have a views folder. So let me cancel this and create a views folder, and everything like the static files and all the static file actually goes into this views folder. So inside this we have, let's say, index.ejs. So I think this will be the only file which we'll be using. I don't know exactly, but let's decide by the end of the video. And also this video I have I have not written any scripts or recorded this before itself. I'm just doing it real time, so I will be making some mistakes, and that's how we learn. So yeah, so we have our basic application set up now. So what I want to do is I want to get started with the front end, which I want to create that input form, and let's see how that goes now. So let's open index.ejs. Let's close this, save that, and yeah, so let's try if this is working or not, and let's say hello. And here in the index.js, instead of sending this hello, we can actually render this index.ejs. So I have added 3 lines here. So one of this is two of these lines. The first 2 lines here, this belongs to body parser, which we'll be seeing why we need that, and if you have already used that, I think you know. And the third line is going to be the default path to find our files. So in this case it's /views. You can see that if I refresh this, we have our views directory here, and it has index.ejs. So yeah, I think that's all we need for now, and let's save this and run the server by saying nodemon. And you can see that the hello is being displayed, but this instead of a plain text response, we are actually receiving the file. So we can get started now by creating forms. So what I want to do is I want to close this, and I want to create a div. First of all, I want to create 2 blocks. The above block would be of 30% of the screen's height, and the other 70% is going to be taken by the list which I'll be doing afterwards. So first we'll be taking a look at this. We will be having an input box, a long input box here, and beside that we'll be having a button. And yeah, let's try to do that. And we can, if you want, we can also add bootstrap, but I don't find comfortable using bootstrap. I don't find that elegant, so yeah. So let's create, let's say first h4, let's say video request, And now I want to create a div with id as request, and inside this I want to have an input. Actually, instead of a div, let me create a form of id. Okay, and I want to create I have to have a input box of type text. The id is going to be let's say the name is going to be video, and the id is going to be video as well, and the placeholder is going to be, let's say, your video idea. And we have our submit form, and we let's add a button as well. So before doing the button thing, we'll be needing a break, or we will just put it beside. Okay, let's say button, and I want to say submit, and I want this button to be of type submit. And let's refresh this, and yeah, this is pretty simple. So you can see that here, right? Let me do this to 100% zoom, so that this is actually how it's going to be looking. It's pretty small. So what I want to do is I want to increase the size of this input button and the input text box as well. And let's see. So in order to do that, I want the CSS to be embedded into this. If I want to, I can create a style tag here, but I want to do that using a separate CSS file. So let me go here and create a CSS file as well. View / let's say index.css. Let's start the server, and here I want to link that CSS file, and by doing this, and now I can open the CSS file here, and let's say I want it to be of, let's say, width 80%. Okay. And the height to be of like 50, let's say 10 VH. I'm not that good at CSS, so bear with me. So I'll make it 5. No, let's make it 2. Okay, I think that's good. And can we also want the button to be of same height? So let's say height is going to be 2 VH. I think it's not working because 30. You can type here and you can just submit it, and I want I want this to be stored in the database and then show that here, right? It's pretty simple. So let's move this. Let's come to the CSS part later. So now what I want to do is, when I submit this, I want something to happen, which is, of course, I want to send this data to the backend, and I want to handle it there. So for now there is no route which is handling that. So let's go to index.js, bring this back, and let me do app.post /request, and that will take request and response. And what I want to do is I want to take out, let's say for now, let's say console.log request.body to see what is coming up. And here, when you want to submit, I want the action to be /request, right? So yeah, let's see if it's being logged or not. Let's refresh this, and let's say hello and submit that. Okay, I think I forgot to mention the type of the request, and the method you have to give that as post, so that it will be sending a post request instead of a get. So let's say hello and let's submit that. I think we need to refresh the page. Hello, and let's submit that. we will not be receiving a response. It will be just loading because we are not sending anything from the backend. But if you go and see the backend, I think the request.body .video is having the content we need. So let's grab that. Let's say video. We can actually destructure that by saying request.body. And now what I want to do is I need to create a table, and I want to insert this video into that table, right? So we can do that, but we have to create a table first. We have the database, we have created the database a few minutes ago, but I want to create the table now. We'll be using the video request database, and if you see, we have no tables right now. So let's create a table, and let's name that as request, and I want the ID as a primary key, which is serial, and serial in the sense it auto increments itself for every subsequent request or insert. And I want to have let's say idea, and I want this to be varchar of 128. I think that's enough. 128. Maybe if we need, we can increase this afterwards. And I want to set my primary key here. Primary key will be the ID. And okay, so the table is created. And now if we describe the table now, so you can see that we only have a basic table. We have a ID, which is the primary key, and the idea, which is the varchar of 128 bits. And this would auto increment itself, so you don't need to add this while inserting. You just need to insert the idea. So let's come back to the application, and now what I want to do is I want to use this connection variable to actually insert the video which is coming back. So in order to do that, you can do connection.query to run a query. So right now what I want to do is I would just want to insert this video video variable. So I can do insert into the table name is video. I think, what's the table name? I think the table name is request, and I want to insert idea. Let me close this. Values, and I want the value to be a question mark, and I want the question mark to be video here. So this is actually for security purposes, to as to the MySQL library gives this. There are alternative ways, but this is the most safe way to do this, so let's follow that. And as a callback, we get error and data. So if there is any error, just throw the error, else you can return a response. For now, let's say request received, right? Okay, the server has restarted, and let's go back to this, and let's really try to insert one. Let's say idea 1. Okay, it says received, request received, if you can see that. And let's go into a table and see if we have anything here or not. Let's just select start from request, and you can see that we have an idea here, idea 1, which has ID of 1. So that's what we need now. We are inserting data, and what we need now is when we hit the /root, I want to get all the ideas and send that back to index.djs so that it renders. So what I want to do is that I want to run another query. So let's say connection.query. I want to say select star from request, and again error and data comes back. And again, if there is any error, just throw that error, or else. For now, let's console.log data, because I want to see how it's coming back. We need to destructure, or if we need to send that as it is. So let's go back and put another request here, request 2, and let's submit that. And you can see that the row packet, which is I think this is going to be the data we are console.logging the data. So that's the data. So if you do data.id or data of 0, let's see what happens. I think just /root is enough to do instead of sending a request. And you can see again that's the first row. So 0 of 0 is the first row, and of 1 will be the second row, and so on. So what we need is the data object itself. So what we can do is return res.render. I want to render index, and I want to say request, and I want to send data as an array. Let's remove this line and save this. So what we are doing here is that we are rendering the index.ejs, and along with that we are also sending all the requests that we have received in the table, and that's what we are doing right now. So I want to open index.ejs, close this, and below this, let's say br, what I want to do is I want to create a div with let's say id as ideas. And what I want to do is, let's say if this is working or not, let's say data.length. You can use this. If you have used EJS, you can use this structure to get the dynamic values out. So let's do slash. Okay, data is not defined. I think we send that as request, right? Request, not data. And we can reload this, and you can see that it's showing us as 2. So there are 2 rows in the table. So what we can do is that we can run a loop through, and for each element we can render a HTML div or something like that. Let's say for, we don't need this equal value, so let's say for t is less than equals dot length plus plus g. Open that, and for each row we need to close this. So let's close that. For each row, what I want to do is I want to render a h5, let's say, and the value is going to be request of t dot idea. Let's see if this is working or not. And I think that's working because we're getting all the requests back here, right? And what I also thought is that it would be nice if an user had a name as well, right? So let's send the name property as well. Here let's have another input with placeholder as name. Oops. And the ID as name as well. And the name is going to be name as well. So let's see. And I want, so now let's say, let's go into the CSS file and make this as 50%. 50. I think we need a BR here. I think we need more BRs here. 2 BRs for each to make that visible. Yeah. And I also want to draw a line here below the form. So that would be HR for a horizontal row. Yeah, that looks okay. And I don't want this to be H5. I want this to be, let's say, H3. And reload this. I think we can make that better. We'll look into this afterwards by changing the CSS as well. Work to do in the backend as well because we have added a new property. So let's come here. Along with this video, I want the name property as well. And in this idea, comma name, I think we have to change the table structure as well. So let's go here into the MySQL CLI, our shell, and let's describe our table once. And we have this. So I want to insert a column. So I can do that by saying alter table request add column name. This is going to be varchar of 32, and that's it. So again, if I describe the request, I have the name column in here, and now I can insert the name as well, and the values is I'll be putting another question mark, and here instead of video I'll be sending an array of 2 items, like I need the video and the name as well. Okay, so let's try that. Idea, let's say request 3, and the name is going to be my name, Simano, and the request is received. Let's go back and select star from the table request, and you can see the name. For the previous values it's just being set as null, but from now on it would be Mano, or the whatever name you give. So I want to remove these null values. You can say I want to remove these null values because I don't want them to be giving some kind of trouble to me. So because there are some redundant values, right, because they are old values, so I want to delete the old values. So delete from request where name is equals to null, or name is null. Yeah, so now you can actually just select star from request, and you have all proper values. Exit here, and now you can actually have like a span kind of thing. Let's add a span here. This is going to be request of t.name. You can see that I have a span here and the name of the request. I think we can change the format. Like I want the name to be a bit bigger, and in the next line I want the idea to be a bit smaller. So let's go with that format. So in that case, what we'll be needing is, let's say, h4 with id as idea, not idea, yeah, idea, and that would be the idea. I think this should be the name, and this should be the idea. Let's go back. Yeah, that's working, but I think that's, so let's see, the gap is a bit high in this case. So let's see. I think we can decrease the margin, right? We can make the margin as 0, not 0, but yeah, I think 0 is good. I can change that, and we can put a br right here. Let's go into CSS and let's change the ID is going to be idea, because that's what I want to set the margin to 0, and save this as well. And let's try to add another request, and let's click submit, and the request is received, and we refresh this, and there's a second request, and I want to add another row break so that it's distinguished. So yeah, this looks good, and yeah, for now I think it's better. Maybe if we want, we can change the CSS. That's not a big problem. Let's change the heading as well. I don't want it to be video request. Let's say my name and YouTube. Let's say small letters. I think it's better if we change the font, right? Because the font is looking too simple. So let's go to Google Fonts. I think let's go with Anonymous Pro. Yeah, this one. This looks good. Let's select this, and let's import it as a link, and also add this to a font family right here. Let's refresh this to see if it works. Yeah, it's working. I want this to be a bit darker and a bit bigger. So let's go back here and let's say I want a class of name as well. So come back here and change this to class. And you can see it's coming up, but I want a bit smaller, not. Yeah, I think that's better. And font weight can be like 500. I don't know, maybe more. 8. Send the video idea here like this. The name is name123. So let's see what's the error here. And you can see that it's sending us an error saying the data is too long because we have given like 128 bits, but it's way more than that. So if this happens, the server is crashing right now because we are throwing that error. What I want to do is I want to give some kind of error response, like if there is some error, then return restart render, maybe send the index, and request will be an empty array, and the error message or the error would be this error.message. Okay, you can actually stop that here. If the video dot length is greater than 128, then return restart render the error. I think that would be here, and the request should be empty, and the error message would be idea too long. Let's console.log error for now. Let's not throw the error. I think this would work. Maybe let's try to submit this again. Go back, close this, and let's refresh this and try this again. And you can submit that and it's coming back. Let's go to index.djs, and here if there is error, then I want to say something like this. I want to give the error message itself. Right, and I want this ID to be error. So refresh that. You're not sending error in every other render as well. Let's send that, and here error is going to be null. Refresh this, and again let's try to paste this and name something. Okay, I think the error must be percentage symbol here. Yeah. Let's reload this, and again. And now it says the idea is too long. And another thing is that if someone want this actually to be in red color, so we can say CSS, and the ID of error would be of color red. So that would do it. Also the name when being submitted, it's if the name is not being submitted, it's not taking any steps to prevent that. Like anyone can not send the name. So I don't want that to happen. I think we can handle that here itself. Let's add a required field here and required field here. And for safety cases, let's add a validation at the backend also. So let's say if there's no video or if there's no name, then again we'll copy this line, which means we are going to send an error, and the error is going to be fill all fields, right? And now if we submit this, I think it sends us fill all fields. I want to redirect to home page also, which is quite handy when you are frequently redirecting between these two pages. So let's put a small button somewhere around here. Let's say, can we put that maybe beside the submit button? Send anchor tab to slash. It says home. Yeah, that would do. It would take us to slash root, and if something is wrong, you can come back here. Let's say it's throwing us an error, then the error is shown and we can go back home like this. So yeah, that's handy. I think that's enough for now. Let's try to deploy this to DigitalOcean. Right now I have actually created a droplet or have a server. In your case, I think you may buy a server from either EC2 or Linode or DigitalOcean or even GoDaddy. There are many providers. What we need is finally the server. So let me log into the server and set it up from scratch. And before that, I need to push this to GitHub so that we can pull that up from the server. So I want to say git init, and I want to add a git ignore, which would be node modules, the heavy file. Save that, and I want to add a remote as origin. So before that, we have to create a repository. Let's create that. Let's say video/request, and the description is going to be let's say website to request videos, and I want it to be it's a public. You can take the code if you want. So we got a new repo, and copy that URL and put that here. I think we have to add the origin, and now I can add all the files here and commit as final push, or let's say v1, and git push -u origin and master. This would push this entire code to master branch, so that now we can pull that from here. So now what I want to do is I want to log into the server. So I have logged into my droplet or the server. So right now if you do ls, there's nothing except snap, which is by default, and the version I'm using is 20.04 and I'm running Ubuntu. Okay, let's get started, and I think git would be installed by default for me. If not, you can do apt install git to install git. For me it's already installed. So what I can do is I can clone a repository, which is the repository which we have just created, and if I reload this, I will get the code here. And before that, even we need some things to install, like we need, let's say, apt install, we need Node.js, we need npm, and is there anything else? We need MySQL also. Okay, I think that's not MySQL. Okay, everything is installed now. We have installed Node.js and we have installed npm. I think we need MySQL also. What we have to do is that we have created tables in our local host or our local computer. We have to do the same with in our remote server also. Usually what you can do is you can create a dump file in the on your local computer, and then you can bring the dump file here, and you can just run that dump file. So but this is pretty small, so I'll just create a table by hand manually. So I think that will do, and after that we can start pulling our repo from Git, and then use that to run the application. And also I think I'll be using like PM2 to keep the app running instead of nodemon, because it's better for production. I think we have to create a database first. So let's create a database, and the database is video request, and use video request. And I want to create table request. ID was serial, I think, if I remember that, and idea is varchar of 128, name is varchar of 32, and primary key is going to be ID. I think that would do. And I think let's exit this. And now if we do, let's clone the repository which we have created. Copy this, paste it here, and I want to go into video request now, and you can see there's no node modules folder, so let's do npm install. That should be quick, I think. Yep. And now when I do node index.js, I think the server is running at 5000, and hopefully MySQL is running successfully. I have actually faced some problems while starting the MySQL server for Node.js, at least in this application. So let me I have changed my config a bit. So this is my config right now. So of course I'll be changing the password afterwards, but for now this is the config. If you have any problem, just I'll be putting a link of Stack Overflow in the description. You can see that and know what's the problem. Okay, let's see if this is actually working. And the server is at 5000, and if we go to this IP, which is in this case it's this 143, and this is my IP, and if you do colon the port number, hopefully it should be coming up, but let's see. And okay, we have some errors. It says the table video request does not exist. Okay, let's see what's the problem. Let's open MySQL. Okay, I think there is a request table here. Let's see our config, if that's anything wrong we have done. So the database is video request, and the table is, I think let's put everything in, the table should be in small, I think, small letters. Let's try running that now. And okay, we got our application which is running now. So let's say if the database is working or not. And let's put our first idea here, and we have received a request. And if you go back and refresh, and we are getting our data back. I think I wanted to change one thing, which is that when you submit this, I just want to reload this page itself instead of again sending a empty string, a plain string kind of thing. So I'll be pushing that in a few minutes after this video, but hopefully this is working. But what I want to do now is that I want to redirect the domain which I have to this IP with this port. Also I want to redirect, before even redirecting, what I want to do is I want to install PM2. Let me say what's PM2. Okay, I think it's npm install PM2 globally. This PM2 can be used to keep the server running. Even if it crashes, there will be some logs and everything like that. So they use that in production, but yeah, it's pretty useful. we have pm to install, and you can see that it's coming up. And what I want to do is I want to say pm to start index.js, and that started. And now we can, the server keeps running. If you go and reload this, it would be running. And if you say pm to status, you can see that one server is running here. So that's what we need. And the other thing is that I don't want to specify the port 5000 here. Even if I take this, I want to redirect itself to port 5000. So in order to do that, I want to install Nginx. What it does is that it redirects it redirects the request to your custom port, and you can do much more than that, but for now I think that's enough. Okay, it's installed. So let's go into /etc/nginx and nginx.conf. This is the first this is the default file of the config file which we get with Nginx. But what I want to do with this is that I want to create a server here. I think we can create a server here, right? And inside this I want to have a location /. If you don't understand what I'm doing with Nginx, I have another video which explains everything about Nginx and Node.js as well. So do take a look at that. So I want this server to listen at 80, and on hitting of this /root, what I want to do is I want to proxy pass to this URL, which is our local host. In this case, it's our local. I mean, this the current server which we are on, and 5000. And I also want to set some default headers. I'm pasting that here. So these are some headers, and I want to proxy pass it to this. And now when I restart this, you can see that the application we created is coming up. And what I actually did was I went back in and deleted everything except the thing which we have written. So yeah, that's what I did. And now it's showing up. Now we have another, you can say another job, hence, which is to connect our domain to this IP. So let me go to GoDaddy, which I have registered my domain on. I am in my DNS management tab, which is of GoDaddy, and if you have bought from any other services, you must be having this place where you manage all the DNS. And now what I want to do is I want to add a property. You must be having a add button where you can add a property, and I want to add a type, and the host must be your subdomain. I mean, in this case it's my subdomain, so I'll be saying request. So it will be going like my domain is currently monosriram.com, and this request would be a subdomain, so it goes like request.domain, which is monosriram.com, and it must point to the IP, which is the server IP in this case, and click on save, and that is added. And most probably if you hit it would take some time, like 10 minutes max. I think it must be showing up. So that's it for this video, and if you like this video, do share, subscribe, and keep watching my channel. Thank you.